That is me. We are live on Soccer Morning, worldsoccertalk.com. Hope you're having a lovely Tuesday. Big show lined up for you today. We're going to talk about events in the Premier League yesterday. Rumors swirling around the recently ousted Jose Mourinho, who might find himself a soft landing spot somewhere. Who knows? I mean, we all thought that Jose wouldn't be long without a job, right? Will he wait out the season? Or will he actually find a job before the campaign is over? The merry-go-round is starting to spin. We know several big-name managers will be available come the summer. If not Jose, certainly Pep Guardiola. That's all going to have an impact on what the biggest teams in the world do, especially in the Premier League. And the Premier League is fun right now. Very, very fun. On this program today to talk about all the fun, Luke Moore from the Football Ramble will join us. I'm sure Luke will have plenty to say about Jose Mourinho and his sacking, about Manchester United, about Liverpool, who got stomped by Watford on the weekend, about Arsenal, who beat Manchester City 2-1. That's where we start with the news this morning. Theo Walcott, Olivier Giroud doing the honors for the Gunners. Now, Yaya Touré's goal was the best of the bunch, but it came in a losing effort, and Yaya was otherwise not very good. That makes me sad. I shed a tear when I hear that Yaya Touré had a bad day at the office. I'm a big Yaya Touré fan. I'm starting to think that maybe age and wear and tear are starting to catch up with Yaya. More like Nana Touré. Trevor Hayward, ladies and gentlemen. The win keeps Arsenal 2 points back of Leicester in the Premier League table, and not all good news for Arsenal. They did get word that Alexis Sanchez will be out for another 3 weeks, pushed back his return. I do find this interesting that Arsenal is getting this done, despite not playing typical Arsenal football and certainly dealing with some injuries. I saw that the possession stats. Was it close to 70% possession for Manchester City in that game? So Arsenal getting it done by being clinical, by taking advantage of Manchester City on the break and certainly pressuring the back line of Manchester City. No, Vincent Kompany is so huge for City. Without him, they are a different defensive team, and it shows against the big dogs like Arsenal in the Premier League. Spain head coach Vicente Del Bosque will retire after Euro 2016. Del Bosque obviously had a lot of success with Spain, won the Euros in 2008, won a World Cup title in 2010 with Spain. Spain at the time, the culmination internationally, sort of the avatar of Barcelona and tiki-taka football. They obviously had some other pieces from other teams, but that the core of that team was very much Barcelona reared, and the Spanish national team played some of the prettiest football we've seen on the international stage. In fact, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who would make the argument that Spain was maybe at the time one of the best national teams of all time when they won their European and World Championships. All right, so Vicente Del Bosque stepping aside. We'll see how that impacts the Spanish national team as they move forward. Egyptian side Zamalek has decided to quit the season, or at least they're threatening to do so. This story's a little all over the place. Threw it into the news because I find it interesting, but of course, the state of the Egyptian league up and down, just based on some of the travails that they've had running the league, security issues. There seems to be a concern over where Zamalek is playing their games. They would like to move their games. The Egyptian Football Association says no. They don't like the officiating. They want to get certain officials off of their games. The Egyptian Football Association said no. And this sounds like sour grapes, but without being on the ground in Egypt, it's very difficult to say whether or not there's a legitimate concern on the part of Zamalek. And this may all be bluster in the end, but they have threatened to quit the Egyptian season. The club could be relegated to the 4th division if they don't repeal their request to be removed. You have to imagine that eventually the brinksmanship will come to an end, and Zamalek will back down to avoid being relegated to the 4th division of Egyptian football. That's a death sentence for a club. You just simply can't do that. There's some interesting insight into the Egyptian football situation at the r/soccer Reddit. on Reddit, Reddit thread on Twitter. On Reddit. There it is. Wow. All right, let's get into Mexico. Mexican captain Rafa Marquez is returning to his native country to join Atlas. That is his first club. 17 years ago, Rafa Marquez made his debut with Atlas, played 4 years for the Guadalajara-based club before moving to Monaco in 1999. Obviously, Marquez has played for Barcelona, most recently with Hellas Verona in Italy, where he moved after the World Cup 2014. Now, Rafa is back in Mexico. He's 36 years old. This is likely his last stop. He captained the Mexican national team through 4 World Cups, 2002, 2006, 2010, and 2014. That's an incredibly, whether you like the guy or not, and certainly as a U.S. men's national team fan, it's hard to like the guy. If you like the Red Bulls at all, it's hard to like the guy. But he certainly is a legend in Mexican football, and now he has an opportunity to end his career back in Mexico with Atlas, his original club. Reports suggest that Manchester United is discussing the possibility of hiring Jose Mourinho. The club, currently disillusioned with Louis van Gaal amid poor results and some ugly football. They just found themselves beaten at the weekend by Norwich. It's not going great for Manchester United. And when you have a name like Jose Mourinho out there, and remember, Jose was angling for the Manchester United job, or at least there were reports that he was angling for the Manchester United job when it opened up post Alex Ferguson, before they brought in David Moyes. Now that Jose's free, the timing works out. We'll see if Manchester United will be tempted by this. Manchester United representatives have spoken to Jose Mourinho's camp about the possibility of becoming the club's next manager, and sources from both sides have told ESPN FC, with current boss Louis van Gaal on the brink of the sack, that Jose could be the man to come in and take over. Now, this is interesting to me, in part because of the style question. Louis van Gaal being accused of not playing very Manchester United-like football, and guess what? Jose Mourinho doesn't play very Manchester United-like football either. Is Jose enough of a? Is he? Can he change his stripes? I suppose is the question, and whether or not he needs to, if he gets wins at a place like Manchester United. It seems like this is a long way to go before something like this could happen, but it's out there. Let's take a break. When we come back, we will grab Luke Moore from the Football Ramble, talk to him about that. Certainly top of the table. Yesterday's game, Arsenal-Manchester City. It's Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
All right, we're back on Soccer Morning, joined now by Luke Moore from the Football Ramble. Hi, Luke.
Hello, good afternoon, or good morning to you, I should say. Sorry.
Yeah, it's still morning here. Happy holidays to you. I was I was having a conversation on Twitter, and I was telling my producer Trevor that I wanted to play bad Christmas music on this show. He refused. He doesn't want me to do that. I can understand why. I need to ask you your opinion, because this song is being discussed on Twitter right now among some of my friends. Wonderful Christmas Time by Paul McCartney. Where do you fall on that song?
Yeah, I don't mind it. I mean, it's an. I'd say I'd put it in the middle of the pack. It's not a standout for me, but it's not relegation material.
Okay, all right. I think it's an abomination, but that's just me. All right, let's move on.
Yeah, I'm not. I mean, there are ones I dislike more, but there are ones I enjoy more as well.
Certainly, it's not stodgy, even if it's got that '80s vibe to it and the synthesizers. At least it's not, one of the old boring ones. All right, let's move to the football, Luke. We're coming up. We're here in the festive period. It's going to get very hot and very heavy in the Premier League. We had a big game yesterday. Crucial match between two of the higher flyers in the league, and Manchester City visiting Arsenal. Arsenal gets the job done. What stood out for me, Luke, and I don't know if I'm going up the wrong tree here or not, and I didn't get a chance to watch much of that game, but it seems as though Arsenal has found a different way, and maybe this is not new. I mean, you and I have talked about Arsenal sort of adjusting when they play someone like Manchester City. They don't have the lion's share of the possession, but they still score the goals.
Yeah, I think they found that. I think Wenger's has sort of adapted in that way. I mean, there was a season or two ago where they had that great result over Man City, and they played in a completely reactive way, and that seems to have flicked a switch for Wenger. Very cagey game early on, wasn't it? Until Walcott popped up and sort of broke the deadlock, and then the game opened up. And then the thing is frustrating for Man City fans will be Yaya Toure. I mean, Vincent Kompany's missing. They're missing a big leader on the pitch, and until they can feel that, but he only decides that he wants to play for sort of the last 15 minutes or so, and then he takes the game by the scruff of the neck and does what he does. But it's not enough because he's not done it for the preceding 65, 70 minutes. So it's very disappointing from their point of view. But of course, Arsenal go into great shape going into the second half of the season, because a lot of people will not expect Leicester to last the distance. And if that's the case, then you want to be the next best team, and that's what Arsenal are at the moment.
Mm-hmm. Certainly. Now, you're talking about City, talking about that leadership. Is it a matter of motivation? Is it a matter of team spirit? I mean, those intangibles are very easy to sort of identify as the problem for a side like Manchester City when they have more talent than most other clubs in this league. Certainly, everybody except a handful. Is it simple? Is it as simple as that? And is that on Pellegrini?
Partly, I think what's frustrating is that they have these players who don't seem to be chomping at the bit to get in the team. So when they do get an opportunity, you see a lot of players in a lot of squads. You have a handful of players who aren't playing every week, or they can't force their way into the team. But when they get an opportunity, they really take it by the scruff of their neck and make it hard for the manager to leave them out. I don't see that with Man City at all, really. I think the gap between, especially in defence, the gap between sort of, someone else to come in to replace Kompany, it's absolutely astonishing. Now, I know Mangala is still fairly inexperienced, and Otamendi is making the adjustment from La Liga, which is a very different way of defending. But even so, I mean, you think they'd better apply themselves a bit better. And also, Man City just seem really soft-centred to me. They can be got at. It's not a case of when you play against Man City and you're a so-called lesser team, you don't sit back and try and hit them on the break and weather the storm and ride your luck. Just get out there and go at them. And they'll crumble. They crumble. They might get a goal or two themselves, but they'll crumble. And so they seem very soft-centred, and I think that part of it has to be levelled at the manager, I would suggest.
Well, in Arsenal on the other side, I mean, again, adjusting to the league and being smart about how they play, certainly against the bigger sides, weathering the storm of injuries. This is, and as you said, to be the second team right now, 2 points back of a Leicester side that people believe will eventually fade. So it's all growing great guns. I mean, no pun intended.
Yeah, I don't think necessarily that Leicester will fade. I mean, I think that's the sort of conventional wisdom, and what does tend to happen is injuries and suspensions pile up towards the back end of the season. I mean, Ranieri's got a big decision to make in January, and whether he sticks or twists, and what form that will take in terms of potentially adding new players to his squad. But it's probably more than likely that they will drop off in terms of performance level at some point. Now, of course, all the other teams are dropping off as well, and all the other teams are very inconsistent, so it might not even make any difference. But I maintain that when you've got a sort of once-in-a-generation thing that's happening now for the first half of the season with an unfancy team like Leicester, I think the best thing you can do, you can hope for at this point, is just to be next, sort of best of the rest and next in line, and Arsenal have done that. They'll be happy with that. I mean, they'll be tucking into their Christmas meal pretty happy, I would have thought. The problem they've got, though, is the fact that they can't stop getting players injured. Yeah. And they've also had a slight concentration problem themselves. So they need to sort of try and overcome that. I said to you a few weeks ago, Leicester have got 4 tough games coming up, and we'll talk about what they can do after those. Well, they've won 2 of them already. So if they come out the back of those 4 games with 9 points, I mean, that's a crazy set of circumstances, and then they're going to go into some eminently more winnable games, and you never know, they might actually close it out. I can't really see them finishing outside the top 4 now, which would be a seismic achievement in itself.
Right. Absolutely. Boxing Day, they have Liverpool, and the way Liverpool's at Anfield, the way Liverpool's playing right now, I mean, you really can't say anything about Leicester. Leicester has a good chance to go and win that game the way things are going.
Yeah, I think if Leicester go to Anfield in the sort of form they've shown, and Liverpool defend anything like the way they defend against Watford, it'll be lambs to the slaughter.
Yeah, absolutely. At this point, speaking of Arsenal, just to come to, because again, they positioned themselves well. You mentioned the injury crisis or the injury issue. I don't know if it's crisis with them winning games. Alexis Sanchez pushed back. Is that how big of an issue is that?
I'd see that as a positive. I personally genuinely would see that as a positive thing. I think Wenger has failed to resist a play Sanchez where he's not been fit over and over again. He's obsessed with playing and running him into the ground, and the guy's not had a decent break in football for ages, and the type of player he is, he always wants to play. At some point, the manager's got to use his experience, take some responsibility and say, look, I'm going to give you the time you need. They're just beating Man City. Mm-hmm. They're not struggling for creative players. He's clearly one of the best players in the league, but he's no good to you if he's injured for 3, 4, 5 months. So just take another week, take another couple of weeks, get him right, and then he can come back into the fold as and when. They're not struggling for creative players at all. So I think that's a sensible move. And for me, as an Arsenal fan, I'd be very encouraged.
Speaking of creative players, I mean, some words here, Luke, on Mesut Ozil and his influence in this team. It doesn't seem like it was that long ago that there were a lot of Arsenal fans very, not upset, but certainly questioning Mesut Ozil and his commitment.
Yeah, I think he's one of those types of players who, when it's not going well for him, his demeanour and his sort of slopey shoulders makes it look like he doesn't care or he's not trying. I don't actually think that's the case. I think it's a big adjustment moving to the Premier League, which is a very fast league, isn't very forgiving when it comes to sort of fairly slight playmaker type forward or attacking midfielders. And so he's had to have made that adjustment. But he has done that. I mean, he's probably, look, you talk about Vardy and Mahrez, it remains to be seen whether they can keep that up to the end of the season. But I don't think there's any doubt at all that Ozil can. I think he's got a good chance of picking up an award or 2 at the end of the season. He's in great form.
Yeah, I should throw in them. Because of where Leicester is and because of who they are, there's going to be rampant speculation about these players, especially the Vardy and Mahrez moving on. And they've both had to, if I'm not mistaken, at least Mahrez has had to issue statements that they intend to stay throughout the through the rest of the season. And really, how can you, as a player, I understand you want to maximize your return on what can be a very short career sometimes, but at the same time, I mean, this is once in a lifetime type stuff for the Foxes. Yeah,
I think I completely agree with you. I think it would be crazy for them to leave in January. I mean, they're top of the league. There's a good chance they're going to be top of the league in January. So what's the point?
Yeah,
stay where you are. Going back to the Ozil thing, the thing I like about Ozil, I think now he's on form and he's settled and he's happy. I think part of the reason he's so successful is because Premier League football is very gung-ho, very 100 miles an hour, back and forth, and it leaves a lot of gaps. I think when he played in Spain, he probably had to find gaps himself, whereas in the Premier League, he just has them presented to him all the time, and that means he can be absolutely devastating with his ingenuity and his creativity. He's like an artist in the shop of butchers. Do you know what I mean? He's very, very subtle and very. It offers a different way of attacking that perhaps a lot of other teams in that league don't have access to. If you look at Mahrez, I mean, he's a great player and he's quick and all that other stuff, but he's a very obvious type of attacking midfield player / forward. He's very quick. His feet are quick. He almost sort of bludgeons you to death with his pace and all that other stuff. Whereas Ozil's a bit more of an artist, I think, and that can be an underappreciated skill. And I think it takes a while for people to fully come around to how good he is.
I think that's true. I think that perhaps not necessarily speed of thought, but reach. As you said, the Premier League is a much faster league, and and one of his great assets is making those decisions as quickly as he does, and that can lead to very subtle moments, as you said, that aren't. He's not taking players on. He's not going to find gaps and create space by drawing defenders to him. He's going to take the ball and find that gap very, very quickly. Okay, moving on here. Let's talk about Jose Mourinho let's talk about Manchester United first, and we'll set the stage for this rumor that Jose may be in line to at least get a sniff at Manchester United. They lose to Norwich on the weekend at Old Trafford, and I imagine that's got to be. Again, we're kind of it's building on Louis van Gaal at this point. Where is it now, and when is the straw that breaks the camel's back?
Tough to say. I don't know. I mean, I heard someone was saying to me the other day that he's got 2 games to save his job or something like that. I mean, I don't really know what the point of that is. I mean, fine, but I mean, if he wins 2 more games, they're not going to change their complete. He's not going to look at that and go. I mean, if we assume that's true, he's not going to look at that and go, "Oh, I want to change my philosophy and do something different." It's not going to happen. So even if they win 2 games next, they're not going to win them 4-0 and 3-0, are they? They're probably going to sneak them. And so the problem isn't going to really be solved. So I just think with Van Gaal, he's just I think he's just quite an anachronistic manager. I mean, he's been very successful in the past. He deserves a lot of respect for what he's achieved in the game. I think the modern game is probably passing him by the way it's passed a lot of other old managers by. I mean, you look at someone like Fabio Capello, who's achieved great things in his career, but his management career has just completely petered out. He's not adapted, he's not adjusted. That's not to say that older managers can't adjust or they can't adapt, but some of them certainly can't. And so Van Gaal looks to me like he can't. Because I don't think it's the size of the club or the size of the challenge, because he's managed at really big clubs before. I mean, the biggest clubs around. And he's also managed at big international level sides as well. So I just think it's moved on without him, the game, and I think he's been caught up, and I think they probably will move him on sooner rather than later. When that is, I don't know. I don't have any contacts in the club.
Sure.
And if you want to talk about the Mourinho thing, I just don't see how. I can't really convince myself or be convinced by anyone else that Mourinho is a good fit for Man United, and I think they know that as well.
No, I'm with. I mean, that's the logical thing to believe that they have to imagine that this is not the right man for them. Not only because he is so flighty and he only lasts a couple of seasons before things fall apart, but also because what style change does he bring to the club in light of what Louis van Gaal has done?
You couldn't make it's almost like a sick joke. One of the biggest reasons that Manchester United are going to get rid, if they are going to get rid of a coach, that they're going to get rid of a coach of a massive reputation, is because he's not attacking enough. Then they get a Mourinho in who's just been fired. I mean, it's like, he's not. What's Mourinho going to do if he takes the Man United job? He's going to try and restore his reputation. The way he's going to try and do that is by winning trophies. And the way he tries to win trophies is not by attacking teams in a free-flowing Man United style. He'll grind results out. And the thing about Mourinho is, the only way I can think of summing him up sort of succinctly, because he's a very complicated character, is he will bring you trophies, but that's all he'll bring you. He won't bring you a legacy. He won't bring you a whole crop of new young players to come through after he's gone. He won't bring you memories of amazing attacking football, by and large. He'll just bring you trophies. And for a lot of clubs, that's enough. And fine, and I'm not judging them for that. But for some clubs, that isn't enough. And those clubs include Manchester United and Real Madrid. And I think one of them, well, he's obviously already managed Real Madrid, and people don't particularly look on that era as that fondly. No. And I honestly don't think if Man United are convinced to take him on by George Mendes, who they like doing business with, by the way, so it could happen on that level. I don't think they're going to look back on it with any sort of fondness at all. That would be my prediction, if indeed he goes there, which I don't think he will.
No, I don't see it happening either. But even if you can conceive of it happening, I guess the only way that you sort of can rationalize it is that since Ferguson left, Luke, there's been a void there, and even with Louis van Gaal, who is immensely respected, it still doesn't feel as though there's something to orbit around at Manchester United the way that there was when Sir Alex was on the job. And Mourinho has that sort of gravity, but it's a different sort of gravity.
Yeah, I think if you went down that route as a Man United decision maker, or even as a Man United fan, if you tried to go down that route and go, "Oh, well, it's never been the same since Ferguson," get on with it, get over it. It's never going to be the same. This is a man who completely identifies with the club, and the club completely identifies with him.
Right.
You can't judge that on the same basis. You can't judge a new manager, whoever he is. Even to get Guardiola in, to a lot of people's mind, the best manager working today. You get him in, he's still not going to be able to compete with the Sir Alex Ferguson stand at Old Trafford, the Sir Alex Ferguson named road outside Old Trafford, the statue of Sir Alex Ferguson. No one is going to replace that. They need to get over that. I remember I said it when it first happened, and when Moyes came in. I didn't mean it in a callous way, but in a more of a reality check type thing to Man United fans. Welcome to the real world.
Yeah.
This is how every single other club pretty much in the world
right.
has to deal with things on a day-to-day basis. And under Alex Ferguson, they didn't have to worry about that. Now they do. It doesn't matter who they get in. It's not going to replace that. I think they just need to put that out of their mind, try and get the best manager they can that fits the club in the best way possible, and try and start achieving new things and start living in the present a bit more and just put Sir Alex Ferguson out of their mind. Not in a way that they don't want to worry about him anymore. They don't want to appreciate what he's achieved. Of course they do, but they need to judge themselves on a whole new set of parameters now.
Absolutely. And Sir Alex certainly is an anachronism in his final few years on the job, because, again, this is not a world where clubs are willing to wait it out with a manager. I mean,
absolutely, yeah.
You go back to Sir Alex first couple of years with Manchester United, and he wasn't winning trophies, and now because of the established, and I'm looking at. I'm sure you haven't had a chance to read it yet, Luke, and I actually haven't gone through it all. It's at the Telegraph, and it's from, I think, Paul Hayward. And it just, whether or not the writing is good or not, the theory is that there's a very small group of elite managers, Mourinho, Guardiola, Klopp, Ancelotti, and Simeone, who have become a luxury brand. And it fits a theory that I have, that there are only a handful of managers that fit a handful of clubs, and it creates this. It's going to create this merry-go-round that Guardiola is going to leave Bayern Munich, and he's going to end up at one of these elite big money clubs because that's the only place he can go.
Yeah, but I think that was quite a broad stroke. I agree with that to an extent. I think I'd include a couple of managers in there and maybe take one or two out. I mean, I'd include Ancelotti in that, and I'd probably remove Klopp from that. But
sure.
but the overall sentiment is correct. And the thing I wanted to pick up on what you mentioned there is the time factor. It's a different game now. These teams feel like they need to be successful almost as soon as possible. There's no long-term sort of thinking on that level. It's fine for them to have a long-term strategy as long as you're picking up a trophy or two here and there along the way. And that isn't always possible, and then that means that puts pressure on the manager. I mean, we're talking about, in terms of Manchester United, we need to bear in mind that we are talking about, in my opinion at least, the greatest club manager in football history, certainly in modern history, and it's not even close. So it's very, very hard, not only hard, but probably impossible, and also irrelevant, really, to judge any other manager working today by those standards. There's no point. You're just never going to be happy if you do that. So it's almost like you need to draw a line under it, go out and get the best fit for the club you can find. Mm-hmm. They've got the money to pay him. They've got the size of the club to attract him. And just go and get him and see what happens, see how it goes. It's a competitive league, the Premier League, and the Champions League is also very competitive. No one's defended it since it became the Champions League, so clearly, by definition, it's very, very competitive. Just give people time and see what they can achieve. Yeah. If your judgment is sound and you find the best manager you can find, I'm sure it'll work out. But it will take time.
It certainly does. And whether or not continuity and stability are keys to success or not is difficult to tell, because, again, even if a manager is capable of staying with one club for 3, 4, 5 years, typically they're the ones moving on as much as the club is moving on. Look, I mean, that's the case with Guardiola. He's done his time at Bayern Munich. He's ready to go try a new challenge. And Klopp certainly decided to step away from Dortmund after a lengthy period, but he's not going to be. You don't expect him to be at Liverpool for 7 years. I don't think that's going to happen.
I'd hope. I mean, I don't know if he will or not. I mean, it's very hard to judge and hard to predict in this era of football. But I mean, Klopp is at least someone who I think naturally wants to do that. Okay. He seems like he naturally wants to stay long. I personally think that anyway. I don't think. Think of the candidates around who have been linked to Manchester United. I mean, Guardiola, fine. I mean, there's loads of reasons why he didn't necessarily fit United. I mean, he never stays anywhere long. He doesn't want to commit long term. He's also a very tactically minded manager who'll be coming into a very untactical league compared to the rest of the Europe's top leagues. So maybe you can't. I mean, there's something you touched on slightly earlier. Maybe you can't legislate for managers staying around that long now. Maybe it just doesn't happen. And if it doesn't happen, then clubs need to adjust their models accordingly. I think I disagree with you slightly about the Klopp thing. I think he probably would like to stay longer. I think Liverpool would like to keep him there as well.
Well, maybe Liverpool would like to keep him, but the problem that we have now, again, this is a function of the modern game, is that the leadership of who's ultimately in charge? And then, okay, so you've identified someone who has. I had a discussion yesterday with one of our regular contributors, Christian Hennig, and he said he was sort of identifying. Oh no! Sorry, I was talking to Ross Dunbar yesterday, a different gentleman, who was pointing out that in Germany you get these ex-players who move into club management, but not, they're not coaches, but they're sitting up there in the executive office and they're making important decisions. And for whatever reason, the in England that tradition there's not a tradition of ex-players moving into those positions, and therefore you have maybe a disconnect in the goals of a club, or certainly less football people in place to make football decisions, whether the manager stays on or not.
Yeah, I think there's probably under the model that English clubs like to prefer, or that the English media says they prefer, there's less continuity, for sure. Because one of the things that United are trying to do clearly, they're trying to get Giggs up to speed, aren't they? They're trying to get Ryan Giggs up there to get the experience, to learn from Louis van Gaal. And for all his fault, he's obviously got a lot to teach. And then perhaps they can bring him in, and that would be more of a long-term thing. But I still think the problem with that is they're going to judge him alongside Alex Ferguson. He's already a legend at the club, Giggs. They're going to be on his back. They'll give him time because he's a legend, but he's not going to get the time he needs to come anywhere near leave a legacy of the size of what Alex Ferguson did. And like I say to you, as I keep going back to saying, there's no point worrying about that. So I think that may not at least making moves towards giving Giggs a bit of training and a bit of an education under a good, solid, experienced top-level manager. And I think that's good to see, because if you look at what's happened in the German national team, they tend to do that stuff. They tend to bring through an assistant and then give him the job, and then hopefully they'll do the same again next time around. And that seems like a much more joined-up way of doing it. But then with Man United, you've got to throw things in like they're responsible to the owners who need to make money, and the brand needs to be big, and they need to be profitable, and they need to have a worldwide presence, and it's much easier to do that if you win trophies and all that stuff. They can't sustain not being successful for too long, because it's really hammers up their business model.
And I'm looking at the table again, Luke, and we're waiting to see what Leicester City will be able to do. There's no. While some people may expect them to fade, there's certainly no guarantee of that. They'll likely at least be challenging for a Champions League spot or a top 4 spot. The rest of the table, though, I mean, because of the way that the league is shaking out, if I'm not mistaken, last year we were essentially crowning Chelsea at this point. What else? What else can? Tottenham finally has a chance to really, solidify themselves as a Champions League contender. We don't know what Manchester City's going to do, and whether they hang on to Pellegrini and whether they can get company back healthy. So there's so much possibility here with Crystal Palace and Watford and West Ham in the top 10.
Yeah, I think Spurs are disappearing under the radar a little bit, aren't they? They're pretty consistent. They had a poor result against Newcastle, but other than that, they've done well. They could easily get in there, because they're consistent. They don't lose too many games, and that's really important this season. It says that, by the way, it does speak volumes a bit that they're only just in fourth, because they've drawn probably a few too many. But yes. I think they're in good shape, because they can keep their players fit, keep that key midfield area fit, and keep Harry Kane fit. They can get in there. I don't know about the other clubs you've mentioned. I mean, I'm not completely convinced about Watford at this stage.
Sure.
I think they've got a couple of players playing very well, but that could all change. And Crystal Palace have got a good side. They need to get their strikers scoring a bit more. But they've got. I think I went to see Palace at Selhurst Park a while ago, and it was in the League Cup, and they had a load of players, first team players, changed around, and they played a few reserve team players. Well, not reserve team players, but players who don't get in the first 11. And I was surprised by the depth of their squad. So I think they've got an outside chance of doing something in the top 6. I think top 4 might be a bit of a stretch. But it's a very unpredictable season. I'm going to do myself no favour at all by trying to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah. I mean, again, we got with Chelsea in 15th, and they obviously get a big win on the weekend. I guess we should, just put a bow on this discussion by talking about Chelsea. They respond without Mourinho. Goose Hiddink is in the stands. Didier Drogba in the box there with Roman Abramovich. Are we going to see a bump because Jose's gone, or is this a talented team finally? I mean, it definitely seemed as though Jose was the problem based on their performance against Sunderland.
Yeah, it was a bit disgraceful, I thought. But then on the other hand, they did look like they were playing with a weight lifted from their shoulders, so something obviously went very wrong there. But I think there's a lot of different reasons why you should try hard and play for the team you're employed by, and it's not just the manager. I mean, so they should have been doing a lot better. But the fact is, they played well against Sunderland. One of the best performances of their season, certainly domestically. Sunderland aren't great though, by the way, and we'll learn a lot more about them next time around. But yeah, I mean, they could go on a run now. I mean, they're only 11 points, I think, off fourth. Given how many clubs keep consistently dropping points, I mean, it's not outrageous to suggest they might break that record and of never finishing higher than seventh or whatever after the start and actually force their way into that top four. I wouldn't be surprised if they did that. It'd be fascinating to see what happens to them now. And I think, Chelsea have got a good record with interim managers. I think every interim manager they've had under Abramovich has won a trophy, I think. Certainly most of them have. So there's nothing to suggest that Hiddink can't be a success there, even in the short time he's got at the club. And given that other teams are dropping points all over the place, you never know. It could be fireworks.
Yeah, and we don't know. I mean, Chelsea is capable of climbing, and some of these other teams are capable of dropping off, of course. And I'm looking at the relegation zone at the moment. I think we're all of the opinion that unless something really changes at Aston Villa, they're a lost cause. As for the rest of this, I mean, again, Norwich, Newcastle, Swansea, Sunderland, they're in 19th. I mean, I don't know that those are going to be the teams that are fighting it out at the end of the year. Not that they're good now, and not that I foresee a lot of improvement, Luke. But as you said, everybody else is dropping points. It's possible we have a completely different set of teams, or we have 8 or 9 teams in the same sort of area fighting off relegation.
Yeah, the most important column at this stage of the season when you try and talk about relegation is the goals for column. You look at the team who's scoring goals. It's hard to score goals in the Premier League generally. And the biggest problem that teams have coming up into the Premier League is scoring goals. So if you look at a team who can score goals and has, not only that, has goals distributed across different parts of the team, then they have, in my view at least, the best chance of beating the drop. But at this point, it's very difficult to say. And Graham Souness always used to say, never look at the league table till Christmas. Yep. Don't worry about it till then. And we're not at Christmas yet, so I'm going to plead the fifth.
Just a couple of days, and then Boxing Day will come, and we'll get another game in our...
You can call me back there.
There we go. Luke Moore from the Football Ramble joining us on Soccer Morning. Luke, thank you very much for the time. Happy holidays, welcome. Merry Christmas, and enjoy it.
Merry Christmas to all your listeners.
We'll talk to you again probably in the new year.
Thank you very much. Cheers, Jake. Goodbye.
Luke Moore, good stuff from him. We'll step aside. We'll come back, open up the phone lines, and talk to you on a Tuesday, whether it's about the Premier League table, whatever else is on tap. It's Soccer Morning, WorldSoccerTalk.com.
Welcome back to Soccer Morning on World Soccer Talk with Jason Davis.
We are back on Soccer Morning on Tuesday, December 22nd, 2015. So the end of the year rapidly approaching. That means lots of lists, lots of, the best this, the best that, the best moments, the worst moments. I'm seeing like the best like flips or something. Like MLSsoccer.com's pumping out content that's like the best goal celebrations and stuff like that. And maybe I saw the best flips. I don't know. I don't even know what's happening anymore. Like at this point in the year, I really have lost the I don't know. I mean, I've lost the thread on like I don't even remember what happened in 2015. Let me say that way. I barely remember what happened in 2015. Here, let me pull back the curtain just a little bit on Soccer Morning. Okay, so this is the web show. Love doing the web show. Remember, we obviously have guests on this show that tend to range all over the place. We have the Sirius satellite radio show, Sirius XM satellite radio show, which is we've been doing that since what, Trevor? Is that March or April? Something in that area, right? Okay, so we've been on the air for March. Okay, so most of the year. I don't remember who we've had on that show. Like I flat out can't remember. And we're supposed to put together a list of our best interviews so they can run it on Christmas Day, because obviously we're not doing a show on Christmas Day. And I'm thinking, who did we have on that show? I can't like there's a phenomenon that happens when you're doing this thing every day where your brain just stops holding information. Like it stops retaining what you did. Like I can't remember who I can't remember who we had on this show unless they're a regular. Like I know we've talked to Luke a lot, and I know we talked to Eric Gomez a lot. We know we talked to Tom Marshall a lot. I know we talked to Jeff Kassouf a lot, and I know we've talked to our friend Charlie Boehm a lot. But who else has been on the show? Like we've had some really good guests on this show in 2015. I just don't remember who they are. Like I feel as though I've done some decent interviews in 2015. But I, for the life of me, can't remember which ones they were. If you guys want to call me up and help me out with this, I would be very, very appreciative. Let's go to Roberto. What's up, Roberto?
Hey, Jason.
Oh, it's Robert. Say, hey, what's up, Robert?
Hey, no, I wasn't gonna. It was just on a mistake. Hey, I wanted to ask you, while you were talking with Lukey, I don't know if you didn't bring this up, but Drogba's going to be like an assistant coach for the next month, and I just don't know how long that's going to last. I mean, like, I know it's MLS out of the season, but how long do you think he's going to be there? Do you think he's going to, like, go there, like, in between weekdays?
Is this a done deal?
Well, they that he's going to help him for the first couple of months, like, for January and mid-February, and then they said possibly longer.
Okay, I'm just seeing a lot of headlines that say, I want him here, or Goose Hitting wants Drogba there, but I don't see anything that says it's done. I'll take your word for it, okay? So if there's an agreement for him to be an assistant coach for a couple of months, I think that's trouble for Montreal. I really do. How hard is it going to be for Didier Drogba to pull himself away from Chelsea to go train to get ready for a season at 37 years old?
Well, I just want to see the spin. Like, they're going to say, like, well, he's going to be he's going to be at a high environment, so he'll be fit, and then he'll be ready to go. And then you never know, like, with the whole transfer window, there'll be, like, a very short-term loan. And I just think it's going to make I'm not going to say it happens, but I'm just going to say it will probably make Montreal look a little bad.
Yeah,
or MLS look bad in general.
That's typically the dynamic. And I don't want to be cynical about it and just assume that everything's going to come, at the, come at the expense of Montreal, but Didier Drogba loves that club. Didier Drogba has been asked back. I mean, Goose Hitting is all over the press talking about Didier Drogba. And when it comes to how you work this out, unless they're going to get a good fee for him, like unless Chelsea ships Montreal a couple $1 million, I mean, how do you look good if you're Montreal?
I don't know. I guess we're going to have to wait to see. I was just wondering, maybe the next month, especially with the transfer window with like players loaning out, it's going to be very going to be very interesting to look at. And can I ask you about, that's just what I wanted to bring up. And I do want to ask you one more thing, Jason. It's off topic. I know you have a beard. Who do you think has a better beard, Jurgen Klopp or the coach for Watford, Flores?
I mean, Jurgen Klopp is just a badass looking individual. I mean, I don't know how you can go up against that beard, but I'm not really a beard judgy kind of guy, unless it's patchy. Okay, if your beard is patchy, then we can have a discussion about bad beards. But really, as long as it's a full beard, as long as you're keeping it relatively trimmed up so it's not going wild, because I don't like a wild beard. I'm not going to...
Like Pep.
Yeah, like who? No.
Like Pep Guardiola when he had his beard.
Okay, yeah, maybe. But I mean even even crazier than that. I'm talking about like
Matt Borcher?
Yeah, I'm not a fan of the Matt Borcher style of beard. That's not my... Look, Flores and Klopp both have excellent beards. Both of them are fantastic. I'm not going to get beard judgy here for you, Robert. Sorry.
Okay, it brings off that interesting man in the world kind of vibes. And I just wanted to ask you that. And
I am jealous of that look, because being a fair-haired, fair-skinned individual, I can't pull off the most interesting man in the world look. I got the, my beard's red. There's no tall, dark, and handsome element happening for me.
Well, don't sell yourself short, Jason. That's what I was going to ask for.
What else is on your mind?
Hey, Jason, real fast. Yesterday, I sent you maybe one or two tweets, and I didn't mean to blow you up, so I hope you don't hate me.
What about, what was it about? About
Jimmy Hill.
Yeah. And I mentioned it yesterday. No, I wouldn't hate you at all. We should probably try to find somebody who can speak expertly about Jimmy Hill, because I just don't, not being immersed in the English football culture until, very recently, and even then, never being to England, and I just don't have a whole lot of insight on Jimmy Hill. But yeah, certainly a fascinating individual.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for taking my call, Jason.
Appreciate it, Robert. Thanks, man. Robert out in L.A., one of our regular callers. I mean, I don't think we have any plans for any, end-of-year roundup things happening here. And honestly, I think we'll probably be on the air maybe Monday, Tuesday next week. I'm not sure what days we're doing the shows. We'll talk about it. We'll let you know what the schedule is. I got to talk to Trevor about it. But we weren't really planning any end-of-the-year retrospectives. But since I put it out there, a bunch of you guys are on Twitter sharing your favorite guests. That's very cool. Fernando says the goalkeeper, Jonathan Tannewald, his favorite guest. That's obviously a guy we had many, many times. In fact, Jonathan may know how many times he appeared on this show. I don't off the top of my head. See, Chris Davis is mentioning Brian Sciaretta. He's been great all year long. Brian's all over the place doing interviews. Let's see. Stephen Clark mentions a specific Tannewald interview immediately following the U.S. Open Cup final. Scott's got Andrew Jennings. Was that this year that we had Andrew Jennings on the show? I think we've had Andrew a couple of times. So yeah, we probably did have Andrew Jennings on the program in 2015. If you got any good memories of Soccer Morning in 2015, go ahead and share them. We'll put them out there. And this is a good opportunity, because I we do this show every day. We just keep rolling. We're always current event focused. We're very heavy on what's happening in the moment, because that's what you do when you do a daily show. But certainly there's an opportunity for people to go back into the archives and maybe pull out some of the more interesting things. And, maybe they're not evergreen. Maybe they were tied to a certain event. Maybe they were very much in the moment with a result or something happening in the world, like the Women's World Cup or whatever. But certainly you can go back and enjoy those interviews and those talks. So maybe suggestions. Maybe we can set up a situation where fans of Soccer Morning share their favorite moments from the last year, or maybe even further than that, and that way new fans, new listeners can go back and grab those shows and listen back to them. That's a good idea, right? I think that's a fine thing to do. We'll set that up somehow, or just follow Soccer Morning on Twitter. We'll retweet some of the best ones for people who maybe need to go back and or could go back and take something out of those past shows. Phone number's 646-832-3909. I hadn't even given it out when Robert called, and we've got a little bit of time left in this program if you want to jump on board talk about something today. Trevor was doing some survey stuff. Speaking of following Soccer Morning, Trevor was doing some survey stuff on the Soccer Morning Twitter account yesterday. I think he got some good information. If you would partake in that and give us some responses, it would help us with the direction of the show, certainly setting things up for 2016. We're adding and trying to make the show better and better every week, every month. We're trying to improve. Trevor's done a lot on the visual end of things, and we're trying to determine what the demand for that is. Certainly, we want to add more visual elements to Soccer Morning, and maybe in the future there's a partnership that'll come out of the soccer world that allow us to do that. Certainly, right now, this is a grassroots sort of thing. I mean, we're doing this. We're in partnership with World Soccer Talk today. Obviously, World Soccer Talk is a fantastic website that's been around for 10 years now. That's been doing fan-based coverage of the world's game and doing a fantastic job of it. So it's great for us to be in partnership with them. But that clearly, there's a level to where we are. I mean, we're not, this is not a corporately run show. We're not backed by a network or anything like that. So we have resource limits, but we do what we can. And in order to get the most out of the show and give you the most we can, we need to know what you want, what you like. So please respond to those questions at Soccer Morning on Twitter. Give us your thoughts on all of that. Let's go to Bill up in New York. Hey, Bill.
Hey, Jason. Just want to talk about Rafa going back to Mexico.
Mm-hmm.
I think that makes it official that Mexico is now the retirement league, and MLS is the league where young Mexicans come to play.
Oh, okay, fine. Yeah, let's make that official, Bill. Why not? Why not make that official?
But Rafa couldn't make it in MLS, so he has to go back where he can play, and he's not going to Mexico.
Well, look, I mean, yeah, okay. All right, you know what? I'm going to let you have your fantasy, Bill. I'm not even going to try to punctuate. I'm not going to play devil's advocate as I usually do. There you go. What else you got, Bill?
That'll be my Christmas present.
Okay.
Is it too early to start worrying about MLS moves for next year with the Red Bulls?
No, I mean, look, the offseason kicked off, 2.5 weeks ago. The Red Bulls, like everybody else, have to jockey for position and get themselves ready for 2016. Now, I mean, when you look at your roster, Bill, when you look at what they have coming back, I think you got to feel pretty good because the core is still there. Whether or not you're going to get anything out of extra size, I mean, you got nothing out of Verón in 2015. Are you going to get something out of him next year? Is he going to be able to step up and really contribute because you're paying him a good amount of money? And this is a team, again, that's changed directions here. So as a DP, whether or not he's not making millions, but he's making enough that you want to get something out of him. I'm trying to think, I'm looking at your roster right now as of yesterday. And I mean, the Lawrence thing, Miazga, those things are hanging over your head. Beyond that, I don't know.
Because the thing I'm worried about is that last year, everything went well for us, went great for us. Miazga and Grella, nobody ever saw that coming.
It's true.
We had two players that came out of nowhere and were great players. I mean, Miazga's, he's going to put England this year. I'm sure of it. He's one of the best defenders in the league. Nobody saw that coming. And Grella, making $65,000 a year, was definitely, for the price, the best player in the league. And that's not going to happen again this year. And it almost feels like to me that that's what they're hoping for again. Like they're signing all these young, homegrown players, and they're hoping that we're going to get another young star again. And that doesn't happen too often.
No, sure, but Bill, I mean, look, that doesn't mean they shouldn't be signing. They signed Etienne and Tyler Adams, I think, are the two names that are out there. Look, Sean Davis did some nice things. Maybe he comes to the forefront in 2016. I still think you can get more out of Lloyd Sam next year than you did this past year. I don't know. Again, Verón is going to have to step it up. Maybe Verón becomes the guy who replaces whatever drop-off Grella has. I mean, there's certainly options here. I do think that the Miazga and Lawrence thing is interesting because you went through a lot of turnover with your fullbacks last year. I mean, how many fullbacks did you guys play? I mean, it was like 8 or 9. It seemed like, and Kamar Lawrence is one of the better fullbacks in the league, and he's in demand. So you have to balance that as a club. How much do we value him with us, and how much is he worth on the open market? Do we cash in now? And the same thing for Miazga, who definitely wants to go. And if he wants to go, you really don't want to deal with an unhappy kid in 2016.
Oh, we got to let him go. I think that's why. I think he's gone, and I think we should let him go. We should get the money for him while he's hot now. I'm also hearing rumors that Sam may be leaving, that he may be going to L.A. You hearing any rumors about that?
I haven't heard that. But if that's, they would definitely. I mean, they would have some trouble replacing him for sure.
Yeah, and that's where I think they're hoping this Barone is really going to work out. Because when I heard that, I said, they're putting everything on Barone now, that he's going to come in and be this wide guy for us, and he's going to be a star next year, and hopefully he is. But I know it's too early, but you always worry as a Red Bull fan.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I understand it, Bill. I understand it. And again, you guys, you hit the wall again. I mean, you won the Supporters' Shield. Congratulations. 2 in 3 years is a solid achievement, but you hit that playoff wall again. And really what Jesse Marsh has to do Jesse Marsh, Ali Curtis, the brain trust there at Red Bull Arena, what they have to do is figure out why they hit the wall and who is going to make the difference in the next season. Maybe you can't really prepare for that any more than just lean on the experience that you had in the past year. I mean, I don't know, because it's not. Look, Dax McCarty, that's one of the best defensive midfielders in the league. You're gonna, he's gonna be there. Sasha Kljestan had a great year, just a bad playoff season. You got a lot out of Felipe. You got a lot out of Bradley Wright Phillips and Mike Grella, and again, Kamar Lawrence and Matt Miazga, and Wimet was good in spurts, and Zubar, and Paranel. Was Paranel gone already?
I don't think so, but he was our one injury in the playoffs.
Yeah.
And we made it the whole season without an injury. EWP did not get injured the whole season, and we were all talking about it. If he goes down, we're in trouble, and he never did. And to expect this guy to have another full season without an injury is a lot to ask for also.
Yeah. All right, well, go ahead.
I'm just worried that they're sitting back a little bit, and they're thinking that they're going to get lucky again, and all their little moves are going to work out great. And I think it's great going with these young guys, and I want these young guys, but we got to get a big player. With New York, we need a big player. We got to get somebody, and they keep going with this small market pricing. It's not going to work, I don't think, 2 years in a row. And like I said, it's too early to start learning, but as Red Bull fans, we always do. Thanks, Jason. I'll talk to you. I
appreciate it, Bill. Good stuff from Bill up in New York. 646-832-3909. Holden's on Twitter, hitting up my man DJ Khaled, trying to get him to call in, which would be a brilliant way to finish out 2015. Chad on Twitter, my favorite soccer morning memory was Kevin Kincaid after his Twitter rant about the Union, Sienkiewicz's front office performance and PR spin. Yeah, Kevin Kincaid's brought a lot to this program over the past year as well. He's been on the Sirius XM satellite radio show as well numerous times. Bo Durr, who has jumped in on Twitter and I know listens every day. He was on the program a couple of different times. I think we talked about his book Single Digit Soccer, which you can pick up, which has some very interesting stories behind the scenes. Is that a word? Illuminating things about the youth soccer world. And this is always, obviously always a question in American soccer, how youth soccer impacts what goes forward. All right, let's see. If we don't have any more phone calls, we're going to have to wrap this one up. I mean, certainly not a week where I'm going to hang out and just pad for you guys. It's a holiday week. We have more important things to do. I mean, if you haven't finished your shopping, jump online, get that done. 646-832-3909. By the way, okay, so I'm trying to figure out if I should be talking about this or not. We'll have to address this maybe tomorrow. I was gonna go into some of the behind the scenes stuff, but we'll save that for tomorrow. Maybe I'll just tease you guys with a little bit of a chat. All right, so we got Andrew Jennings as the best interview of 2015. Numerous great guests who had been on the show numerous times, including, again, Bo, Jonathan Tannenwald, Jeff Kassouf, Kevin Kincaid, Charlie Boehm. Oh, man, how many other... again, Eric Gomez, Tom Marshall. I'm trying to think. We had Dave Martinez many, many times. Fantastic stuff from Empire Soccer's Dave Martinez. We've had Kyle McCarthy on this show numerous times. Let's see. Who else should get a mention? I mean, I'm going to leave people out. This is what I'm talking about. Brian Sciaretta, Christian Hennig. David Cartledge. Absolutely. Ross Dunbar. Absolutely. We've Jonathan Johnson, Giuseppe LaRocca, David Amoyel. Who else? Man, so many people. Did we have... I'm trying to think of some of the one-offs that we had, because I saw somebody on Twitter the other day talking about who's the guy who was writing on the American ownership? Trevor, was that last? That was 2014, right? So this is what I'm talking about. My brain goes David Kahn. Yeah, that was 2014. So that was a long time ago. It seems like it just happened, but it didn't. It was a long time ago. Yeah, we had some good stuff in 2014 as well. All right. Anyway, go look at the entirety of the archive. Good place to wrap it up. Thank you to Luke Moore from the Football Ramble for his insight into the Premier League. Thank you for the callers, both of you guys, Robert, Bill. Good stuff from you. We'll be here tomorrow. We'll be here on Thursday as well. So we'll be up until Christmas Eve. So if you were wondering, there's your information. Thank you very much for checking us out, and go follow us on Twitter and do the iTunes thing. And what else? Nothing? Lawless, Twellman, you're right. 2015. Fantastic year of guests. We'll do more review tomorrow, maybe. We'll talk to you then. Bye.
Did my invitations disappear? What I put my heart on every cursive letter. Tell me why the hell no one is here.